Robert Scoble from Microsoft.
Brad, nice to meet you.
Great. We're filming, so.
Sure.
So what are you doing?
Basically,
So what kind of ports do you have on the car?
okay, so what I'm doing is we have various sensors on the car. We have sensors that measure load in the push rods, how much the dampers move, and pressures like gearbox pressure and brake pressure. All we're doing now is...
Let's wait until they shut that off. So how many sensors are on a car?
I can give you a quick ad. There's probably, just in chassis side, not engine alone, there's probably around 30.
30 sensors on the car?
Somewhere around there. Just on chassis side, there's a lot more on engine side.
And what kinds of data is it collecting?
It's collecting things like ride heights, how the car is riding over bumps and things like that. That's referenced off the bottom of the car where 0 is the car hitting the ground. Damper position, how much the damper's moving. We can measure that, and also loading the push rods, we can get like an aero load, see how much downforce the car is producing through that load in the push rods. A couple other the main things we monitor is like gearbox temperatures and pressures, brake pressure. Obviously around an oval like here, we don't hit the brakes, you just have it coming in. Like steering position. Yeah. What's your rear ride height? Rear ride height? What's your rear ride height? Right now I'm just zeroing out the lasers to get those 33 and 37. Yes.
So you have lasers, and what are they measuring?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you guys are good. Right now, you can see right there, like on the front there, that's one of the lasers that we're talking about. That's basically just measuring distance from the ground.
Oh, I see.
You can actually probably see
Yeah, the little light beam.
Little light beam on the ground. We have 3 of those, 2 on the front and 1 on the rear. It measures like tilt and rake of the car, just the overall attitude of the car as it goes around the track. Because when you go into the corner, there's such high G's, the car leans over. And one of the things we test too is we have a parameter that we like to see, and that's called tilt when the car rolls over. But that's one of the main things we look at as long as aero loads and aero balance. And it's always percent to the front, like 38%, or what should be like a typical road course number or so. And then like around here, we're probably around 20 to 25%. That's percent front. So 25% of the downforce is on the front of the car and 75% on the rear.
And what kind of app are you using here?
This is the main program we have on the car. It's made by a company called Pyre Research. They're based out of England, but they have a shop over here in Indy. Basically, that's the main program they use. That pretty much everyone here in the field uses as far as data on the car. They analyze the software and setup and everything like that.
We're going to shut off because it's getting noisy again. So, how many times a second are you getting data?
We log at different rates for different sensors. The push rod tops, the aero load that I keep talking about, we log those between 2 and 500 hertz.
Okay. That's a lot of data coming at you.
Yeah.
What kind of wireless system do you? Now, can you get that kind of data wirelessly as it goes around the track?
The main Pi box has onboard math that it takes a gated section, like for here, it's around the back straightaway, and we also have a gated corner section. And each time it goes by start finish, it gives us an aero balance and an aero load, and then we have, of course, we have ongoing telemetry of like pressures and temperatures to make sure everything's working properly, and as well as the steering trace. We can generally tell how the car's handling before he even comes in off the racetrack and tells us. We can just see on the telemetry we get back in the pits.
Right.
How's it all working out? But yeah, it's the main critical sensors we log generally around 200. Everything else, temperatures and pressures, it's 20 hertz. However, brake pressures we log pretty quick.
How did you get into this field?
How I got into it? I ended up, believe it or not, I owe a lot to my high school physics teacher. So Wally, if you're out there looking, it's for you. But he got me into the whole engineering side of things, and then through my uncle actually worked for a race team. So when I was growing up, I went to many of his races. Just got into the racing thing, and then went to school, did a bunch of internships, and I've been here 3.5 years now and love it. And went to Purdue, so that was good.
And what was your major?
Mechanical engineering.
Mechanical.
Yeah. So
every day. I mean, this is sort of exciting because it's going into race day. But what do you guys do? Back home.
Back home, basically just like research and development projects, projects like trying to make the car go faster, whether it be fuel flow in the pits, on setup wise, just looking at everything to try and go faster. We're always looking for that little thing to make the car go faster.
Right.
That kind of stuff. A lot of paperwork. Could be a lot of paperwork, but it's good.
What kind of paperwork? Why paper?
Reports.
Okay.
You
do them on a computer, or okay? So it's visual work.
Yeah, a lot of
what we do at work.
We have like after every race, we have like pit stop summaries. We always like to see how our pit starts are compared to the rest of the league, and we have reports for that. We have just standard reports like race weekend reports for all of us. Sort of problems we encountered, things we thought we did well, things we thought we did not so well, where we can improve on. And then, we file those, and obviously from year to year we go back and look at our notes and figure out how to not do the things we did wrong in the previous time. So,
how has technology changed racing?
A lot.
Give me some examples.
A lot.
Is it more of a geek sport now?
It can be now. Yeah. I mean, the main thing.
The driver certainly says it takes a lot of muscle to be in the car for 4 hours. So.
One of the things is just the simple stuff like your air balances and stuff. Before technology, you had no idea where it was or what it was, and you can't have too much wing in the car, and it screws it up. Well, in years past, you never really knew where you were without technology, and now you always know, so you always try and get it right. Sometimes get it wrong, but you always try and get it right. Just as progressive time, the shocks have gotten more tuned around technology. Everything now is tuned around technology. Why did your team ask me not to take video of the shocks or the engine compartment? What could other teams learn from seeing that part of the car? A lot of how we operate. I can't tell you everything.
Yeah, no.
So.
But that gives obviously there's sensors and things that obviously you're using to try to get that little edge, right?
Yeah.
So is it really an IT war on these teams to try to get better data or get better?
The thing you don't want to forget is you're not racing computers. You're still racing a car. So you don't want to get tied up too much in it. But in a way, yeah. You're always, especially when you get into like a fuel mileage war, it's your fuel numbers coming across telemetry. So you're trying to be the smartest one up the pit lane and try and figure out the race before it happens. And that's what I enjoy, is the strategy stuff. And that's, I guess that's one way technology has progressed, is we're able to, we're able to now know, where we stand with fuel and what kind of fuel mileage is getting. It can be better or worse. You always don't want to go bet worse, but if you need more power, Because obviously there's different fuel settings to lean it out. When you lean it out, you lose power. Things like that. So you always try and one-up the guy next to you, per se. And another way that technology has progressed is we have an instant messaging program that myself and the gentleman Chris Simmons on the 9 car are in constant communication with each other. We have like a little instant messaging system that we always know what each other's doing, so we can work better as a team than hopefully our opposition.
Is that Office Communicator that you're using?
It's actually Windows Messenger.
Oh, Windows Messenger. Awesome.
Yep.
And somebody's using it in the car, so are they typing on their...
No.
Okay.
There's only one-way telemetry. That's we can receive stuff from the car. We can't send it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it.
So you can send messages to the driver?
No.
Or no? Okay.
We can, but it's illegal.
Oh, it's illegal?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it is illegal to do that.
Have you been involved in like some of the decisions on how you think you could be using technology to your advantage in there? You see about things like Messenger and things like that. Is that something part of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, we always have, one of the things we've got recently was OneNote, Microsoft OneNote. That just now became, this year, I believe, available to us, and we use the crap out of it now. But yeah, decisions like that, we all have, it's still a team effort, whether it be, one car versus the next, we still all work next to each other, we still all communicate with each other. And
OneNote. Can you tell me how you use OneNote?
A lot of things we use OneNote is like just screen clippings. It's so nice. Like we have 6 different programs we have open with different screenshots of different graphs, different analysis. We'll use MATLAB or we'll use Pi, and it's so easy to use OneNote to just take that screen clipping, blast it in there, write it like a 1-line or 2-line blurb, and send it on its merry way.
I say that technology has been, a differentiator in racing over the last few years. Have you been part of this, before using OneNote and Messenger, like quite a drastic change, or
It's made life easier, if you know what I mean. Now, with programs like that and technology like that, we're able to do our jobs, say better, hopefully, but faster. Like we can spend more time because now we don't have to put a big report of individual, taking all this stuff and combining it with different programs and stuff. Now we have one program to put it in there. Reports take half as long as they used to. So, an hour report now takes a half hour. Well, that's another half hour you can be spending on the car to try and make it go faster. So that's how, technology has advanced us. It's time management in racing is everything. You may have 50 things to do in an hour, so you have to prioritize and get it done. But, if anything that takes less time is a big advantage for us.
Now, here you're using a laptop.
Yes.
Out on pits, do you use a tablet PC or?
The main engineer does.
Okay.
I am the support engineer. The chief engineer, who's Julian on the 10 car, and Eric Bretzman on the 9 car, they use the tablet PC. And how it's become an advantage to them is before they'd have to write down numbers that I would give them or they would get from the computer screen or everything. Now the tablet has a program on it that inputs those numbers automatically. So all they have to do is look at their screen rather than having to think and listen to the driver and do 10 things at once when the car comes in. Because he's trying to get numbers from me, trying to listen to the driver and then make a decision on the car, try and listen to the mechanics if the car's bottoming or something like that. With that tablet, it's just one less step he has to worry about. Now he can concentrate and focus on the driver because the numbers are already on his computer or his tablet when they get there. And it's nice for them because it's pretty portable. Obviously, it's nice and small and everything like that. So it's a good program for them.
Do you have a computer geek on staff here?
Oh, yeah.
So, like an IT specialist who sets up your IT and works with you?
Yeah.
Keeps everything running?
Yep. Yeah, his name's Darren. He's good.
Are you a gamer?
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna get an Xbox 360?
Probably, yeah.
November 22nd.
There's actually several of us. One of the things we stress is the team atmosphere, and it's nice. Like several of us play games, Like right now, we were on a big Soldier of Fortune kick, and one day at Indy, with 3 drivers before Ryan had his accident, Scott and Darren and Ryan, myself, Chris, and several other people on the team were in the engineering office playing Soldier of Fortune on a rainy day at Indy, and Chip walks in, so that was kind of funny. He just looked over and laughed at us. So it is fun, but it does. It builds that team atmosphere, because it is a fraternity of people. We all look out for each other.
You're a kind of family.
It is both. Yeah, family.
How many days a year are you on the road?
I'm gonna say it varies, obviously, year to year, but right around 130. The truck drivers are on the road a lot more than that. They're gone about 150 days a year, but yeah, right around the main crew guys are around 130.
Must be tough to have a family in this kind of work.
It is. I'm single, so all you ladies out there.
You don't have a web log.
No, it is.
We'll send them over.
Yeah. We are close to our family, but yes, it is tough. And I've seen a lot of families who have kids and young ones. It's hard because you're here and you want to be with your kid or your wife or whatever. It is hard. It is hard.
Tell me about some misconceptions that people might have about the behind the scenes. Most race fans don't get to come down here and actually talk with the team.
Main misconception: it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's 12 hours a day. At the racetrack, we'll show up at 7 in the morning and not leave till 8 at night, 7 at night. Late nights, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings.
Yep.
And its highs, it has its highs, and its lows has its lows. There are a lot of lows. But, it's something we all love.
What's the most memorable thing that's happened to you since you've been on the Target team?
The most memorable thing, I have 2, is winning the championship, the IRL championship in 2003, which was my second year here with the team. And then I got promoted to the engineering level and actually graduated school with the Grand Am car, and we won the championship that year as well. So that was probably my biggest achievement, was the 2003 IRL and 2004 Grand Am championships.
What's your background? You said school. And what kind of a background do you have?
Mechanical engineering?
Yeah, it's mechanical engineering. Yeah, went to Purdue. Their Indianapolis campus. That's how I was able to work here. I worked here full time and traveled and went to school full time. And still graduated with a 3.2 average, so pretty proud of that.
It's going to be one of those things of why to go to university, why to go get one of those things in sciences.
I'll raise my hand to that. I'm a true testament on why, because without the schooling, without the long nights of, on the road of leaving here at 8 o'clock and then going back to the hotel room and doing nothing but calculus. I don't want to do that, but in the end it paid off, big.
So what are some of the ways that you applied the science in your calculus?
A lot of onboard, the onboard math. We have several math channels on the car, and we do the analysis software that are all calculus-based equations. Some of them I can't tell you, but
Yep.
I'm going to save this for my daughter.
Yeah. We have programs to. We may take an accelerometer, how much steering he has, and through calculus we can get a push number of how much, the car, we try and set up for a push car where the front doesn't want to turn, because if you have a car that's loose where the rear end wants to slop around, it's very unpredictable. Whereas a push car, in the corner, it's going to want to push up the racetrack, so it's very predictable. So that's what we try to achieve. But we can get a number of how much push we have in the car through calculus, basically. And I would never even thought it was possible until I started here, and then I actually looked at the equations, oh yeah, that makes sense. It works.
So if you want to work on the Target racing team, you better have your math skills down.
Yeah, they test me every day.
Give them any calculations up with Excel or any of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. A lot of the reports that myself and Chris do our Excel-based reports.
We should get you the new version of Excel. You'll probably like it a lot.
If you could give us a rundown of like the different programs that make up your arsenal. A lot of people talk about, what are their favorite programs that they use to do their job. What's in your toolkit of the things that you could not live without to do your job?
My toolkit is obviously the Pi workshop, Pi analysis, run the car, and Excel.
OneNote?
In OneNote. And just the Microsoft products like Word, OneNote, Excel are big. And then our email is Outlook, so can't do with that, seems like.
You keep your schedules in Outlook?
Yeah. We keep our calendars and everything like that. So we all have like little. We are geeks. Let's be honest. So, we all have calendars in Outlook. We all have reminders that pop up. And it's fun.
From your point of view, what are some spectator tips? What should on Sunday? What should I be looking for? If I'm up here in turn 3, what should I be looking for to enjoy the race better?
I think honestly, the closest you are to the track, the better. Just to get a real sense of the speed. We drive at 60 miles an hour on the interstate, and they're doing 230 like down the back straightaway. It's 170 more miles an hour than we've ever gone. So
I don't know. Scoble drove the rental car back.
Hey, I was only breaking 90.
That and just how close they are, because the car is really at that speed and the wind that just a 10 mile an hour wind makes the cars really unstable. And it's.
Have you ever been out in a car?
I haven't. I have when I worked at Skip Barber Racing School. I have been out in one of those cars. But not one of these. And what about the little mopeds? I have been on a little moped. That's more my speed.
So they don't let even the team members go out in the cars with the drivers or anything.
What's the value of one of the cars? I don't know if you've asked that yet.
I can put a relative number on there. We've heard a lot of things this year. So, the chassis probably around $500,000. Just a rolling chassis, no electronics, no motor, just that. And then of course, every team does its own little tricks and things to it. So that's probably another $100,000. So that's about $600,000 right there. The electronics are probably at least another $100,000. So it's $700,000. Then the motor program is expensive. So honestly,
you're driving more than $1 million probably.
Oh yeah, honestly, to run a full season without crashing and be competitive in this league, it's probably around $10 million a year, one car.
And if you crash, it goes up to 11. If you crash twice, it's 12.
Yeah. No, you're right. If you have a big shunt, you're writing off $1 million race car.
And there's no car insurance for these things. You just need it.
Yeah.
So when we see a crash on TV, that's $1 million.
They actually do have insurance, but it's like $20,000 or $30,000 a race. So in the end, you have like a $300,000 deductible. So don't quote me on that. That's just relative numbers, but yeah, in the end, you don't have insurance. They're not cheap cars. So.
Well, thanks for taking a little bit of your time out.
My pleasure. Hope this helps.
Yeah, it will, and look for it on Channel 9. Thanks.
Perfect.
Just tell me what's secret, and I'll shoot that. That's how I do it at Microsoft.
Hey, I'd like to know some of those secrets.
They're on Channel 9.
Basically, what we have here is we have 3 different transporters. Sometimes we have 4 if we're going to run 3 cars. Obviously, this weekend we're only running 2 cars, so there's only 3 transporters. And basically, what you see here is we got all the nice cabinetry, and basically every single one of these cabinetries have something stuffed in it. Whether or not it's cleaner or whatever it is.
And these are semi-truck trailers, so they split up.
They are semi-truck or semi-trailers, but basically what we've done is set them up directly for a race team.
Yeah.
You got your work area here up above is where we store the cars and transport the cars. We've got to take the wings off because they're just a little bit too high, but we have basically everything we need. Is just basically our rolling shop. We have everything we need for the weekend. We have everything from engines to, if we do have a couple spare engines. This weekend our spare engines are still with Toyota. They'll be coming here a little bit on, I think they'll be coming in Saturday night for Sunday's race. So
All right.
we're happy about that one too.
Cool. Have they been souping up your engines?
Yeah, we have everything set up aside for doing gear stacks and any kind of changes we need to make, because these engines, as we were saying, they are very finicky, and basically we're working with about a 200 RPM split, and that's ideally where you want to be. You want to be between 10,100 to 10,300 RPMs at all times.
Really?
So it's real important that you just kind of get that right gear, and we will be shifting basically 2 gears every single lap. We'll go into the corner in 6th gear and downshift into 5th gear. Because of the way it's banking, you will get a little bit of both the lateral G's and also the vertical G's in the corner that will slow down the car a little bit. So, we will be flat all the way around this track, and
Now,
we will lose a little bit of speed because of the.
When I watch hot rod racing, they rebuilt the gearbox every single race. They would race for 4 seconds, and then they would rebuild.
Yeah, no, we definitely do change the gearbox. At least I would say every single race we start with a brand new gearbox, new dog rings, new gears, everything like that will be new. Some parts of the gear shafts, for example, we will keep the same, and then obviously other parts we mileage them out. They average about 4,000 to 3,000. I'm sorry, 2,000 to 3,000 miles before we have to mileage them out. Up here is, I'll show you this one over here is just basically the same as what we've seen here.
Yep.
Up here is Pat's office.
Don't look in there.
It's a mess.
Yeah, let's see Pat.
That's where all of our high-tech stuff is.
Thanks, Pat, for getting us the tours and everything.
And then basically here, this is the driver's lounge.
Hey, this is where you live, huh?
This is where we live. This is one of our driver's lounge. The other one, unfortunately, was with the other trailer that's not here this weekend.
Yeah.
But you can see what our suits are going to look like this weekend, and you have Scott Dixon's helmet over there, and this is one of my helmets here.
It's nice and cool in here, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's an important thing.
How do you
It's,
gear?
93 degrees outside and about a cool 70 degrees in here.
69 degrees.
Oh, 69 degrees here, so it's perfect. But this is obviously a place where the drivers get a chance to just come back here and we talk amongst ourselves what the car's doing, and also it gives us a chance to kind of collect our thoughts for sure.
How do you mentally get into the race? How do you mentally prepare?
I'll be honest with you. From the second I get to the racetrack, I am only thinking about the race. Qualifying is very important. You want to get as far up as possible, but for me, it's all about race day. If I qualify 22nd out of 22 cars and win the race on Sunday, it was a perfect weekend. If I start 10th and win the race, it was another perfect weekend. That's all I'm set up to do. And I mean, there are things you have to do. When I come back in here, I'll sit down and I'll think about some of the things I need to do to make the car better and some stuff like that. And then at that point, where I'll take you next is the engineering area.
Let's go.
And that's where we really sit down and talk to the engineers.
If I can walk downstairs.
This could be interesting. If we go blank, he didn't make it. And then back over here, we have basically it's still the same. This is where we have kind of our mess hall, if you will.
Yep.
Pat's eating now.
Yep.
She went from her office to eating.
Cool.
And then up here is our engineering.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I think they're actually having a meeting. Are you guys having a meeting right now? So this is where we come in and we debrief basically after every single session. We'll sit down and we'll talk about everything that the car's doing. Obviously we have several computers in here. We'll take a look at all the data that we learned from that session and see what we can do to make the cars that much faster. And this is ground central, if you will. This is where everything happens. This is where we make the cars work. Definitely the most important spot.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing us up here.
No problem. So that's. Here we go backwards again. One more. There you go. Okay, so that's basically what the trailers are. And again, like I said, up here, we do have, make sure nothing falls. This is where we do all the storage. The cars go up there. We also have, you can see we have some pit signs and underneath we store all the water. It's all about, basically getting to the track and having every single thing that you could possibly want. We have here.
It looks like a server room here too.
Yeah.
It's a very compact server room.
It is.
You should come and visit us at my shop and see our server rooms.
I can only imagine what yours is like. So, obviously you can see we have extra wings here, and we just have everything you could possibly need during the weekend. We have it here, and that makes it important. That way, we have the opportunity if something should happen, we're always have what we need to make the car, better for the next session.
Very cool. Thanks for showing us around your trailer.
No problem. I appreciate it.
Great.
We got killed last year.
Right.
Like my notes. Field started to spread out. Unfortunately, there was then a green period of 160 laps, so all the rest of the stops were under green. We're running with individual cars, always a little slower than the lead group, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So yeah, 160 laps of green was the big deal last
It
year.
seemed like the year before it wasn't quite that bad. It seemed to be spread out a little bit more. No, maybe not.
Oh. 2003 only 6 yellows, 23 in 2002. So historically hardly any yellow here.
Yeah.
Which could change totally. It could be it was a yellow fest near the end in the
Yeah, we had a couple of crashes right there at the end.
basically all the yellows came in the last 27 laps. 19 of the yellows were in the last 27 laps last year.
The first one wasn't even really yellow with
Mirror contact turn 2.
Okay.
7 guys on the lead lap.
So basically what that tells me is we should probably have the 3 top gears.
Yeah.
Because
If you need it.
restarts aren't going to be as
There
important
weren't
as being
any
able to go out there and
restarts.
run. So we might have to sacrifice the first gear like we were talking about, move that up a little bit so we can sync it up a little bit so when we get out of the pits we can
Yeah. Yeah.
utilize those a little better too.
And then 4th, 5th, 6th, good. Last year, typical race laps were in the 15s. Miller had a 16.9. Qualifying 17th for Casper Miller, 16.3 for Scott. Final practice 15 to 14s. We were out on our own.
Ran 4 laps. Thanks guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate that one.
Okay.
Cool.
Do you want to talk to Julian? He can explain the tablet PC
Sure.
and
Yeah.
And how to use
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacques. I appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Dr. Game. So who are you?
I'm Julian Robertson. I'm Jacques' race engineer this weekend on the 10 car.
Remember I was talking about how this room is the magic room?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the magic right there.
Excellent. And you run the magic on this device, right?
Yeah.
So
The race engineers, we all have tablets now, which are essentially, imagine it as a laptop, except you've got no separate keyboard. It's all on the screen, and we use the pen here to write away on the screen as necessary. And Microsoft have written us an application which is custom done for our team. I don't think anybody else has anything like it, and it's designed for basically race engineering the car. It has all the setup stuff that we normally use integrated into it. We work a lot with them, kind of fine-tuning it over the past couple of years to exactly what we want. What we do before we come to an event, we set it all up and print out build sheets and setup sheets for the mechanics and that kind of thing. Then during an event, we use its kind of user interface totally in what we do with the car. We don't need paper and notes anymore or anything like that, and it all goes into one big database which is accessible by many different people. Back at the shop, everybody knows where this is, or all the engineers who need to know where this is, so people can access data in the same format and analyse it. They know what format it's going to be. It's not particular to any one engineer or anything like that. It's all kind of integrated and tied together. So during a race weekend, we use it. It sucks in the telemetry from the car while the car's running. So as well as getting all the telemetry and stuff on the screens in the timing stand, the race engineers are also getting it on our tablets here. So when we're talking to the driver and all that kind of thing, we can just call up things as and when, and it's all kind of integrated into that big database. So it's starting to tie everything together better.
So you have tablets, and then you have servers as well too.
Oh yeah, we have servers. There's many different computers running on the timing stand while the race is going on. Like the race engineer, which is me, I'll have my tablet. My assistant engineer, he'll have his laptop, and he'll be running like the 3 screens in front of us. Then we have engine guys normally standing at the back. There'll be either 1 or 2 laptops, maybe even 3 at times, looking at engine parameters and that kind of thing. So typically there might be 6 or 8 screens going.
Communicating all live with the car while it's going around the track.
Yes, yes.
How long have you been part of racing?
20 years now, so.
So technology has changed how you do racing quite a bit over the last number of years?
Yes, in the last 20 years, data acquisition and telemetry was just kind of coming in when I started racing. But then it was at the stage where everybody knew you needed to be doing it, but nobody could do it reliably. Now it's got to the stage, probably in the last 6 or 7 years, it's been essentially reliable. Now it's extremely reliable. So you use that data much more. You know, the art now is in using the data, not collecting it. 15 years ago, collecting it was hard enough. Now the collection is guaranteed. You just look at the how you use it aspects, which is why this has come along.
So, 15 years ago, I guess one of the differentiators was horsepower in the engine and things like that, and it still is today. But
Still is today.
It still is today, but technology possibly could be a differentiator as well too.
Yes, because although you've got engine power and that kind of thing, you've got car aerodynamics and car handling, and we do a lot more nowadays in terms of mechanical simulations and all that kind of thing than we used to do many years ago. There's more and more computer power. Now there's CFD, computational fluid dynamics, for the aerodynamics, which is an area everybody's just getting into. Again, it's been around for the last 5 or 10 years, but not fast enough and not reliable enough. It's probably in the last couple of years that it's really started to take off, because you can do test cases fast enough to make it usable. So that's starting to take off. We do tons of computer simulation all the time, like masses of computer simulation, because the way the governing bodies go, they try and limit on-track testing more and more each year to try and keep the costs down ostensibly and all that kind of thing. So you have to do more and more simulation off-track. So we have quite extravagant car mechanical simulation pieces of software.
What kind of applications do you use in your day-to-day job?
In my day-to-day job, it's fairly straightforward. I use this application a lot. I use Word, I use Excel, I use OneNote. We use OneNote more and more. Different people use different things. Like a lot of guys use MATLAB and that kind of thing, and there's tons of other stuff that I don't get involved in. But
You have an engineering background then, or
aeronautical engineering is my kind of what I did my degree in. Then I got heavily into race car design, and I'm still involved a lot in the design as well as the race engineering side of things. And then, back at the shop, we have a number of engineers, including what we call an advanced engineering group that just looks at the more research and development kind of side of things as opposed to the pure racing stuff. And we also tie in a fair bit with the NASCAR guys.
what would you tell people that wanted to get into doing something like this? If you're talking to a kid that was in high school right now.
You need to get involved in racing at a early level, and probably at a grassroots level. It's very difficult to just suddenly slot in with the top team. It can be done. Get involved with racing at a grassroots level. You've got to be smart. Like, we look for people with good qualifications and who are smart, because you can teach somebody, our top simulation guy, his degree is in physics and stuff, not engineering, but he got involved in race cars and race engineering, and if you're smart, you can learn that aspect pretty easily. So we look for smart people rather than people who are purely into cars or engineering or that kind of thing. And nowadays you need a good degree to kind of get to the top levels. all the guys in this room have good degrees in mechanical, aero, or electronic engineering and that kind of thing. And
What are you proudest of in your career?
what am I proudest of? I don't know. I don't really have favourite stuff of this, favourite stuff of that. We've won a lot of championships at this team, which is good. We're trying to win more.
In the off season, what kinds of things do you think about? What kinds of things are you going to think about in this off season?
Well, what we do each off season, there isn't really a big off season. You guys probably think, oh yeah, after the last race, nobody does anything for 6 months, and then it all fires up again. We've already started work on what we kind of call our winter projects, so to speak. It's all the things you haven't really got time to do during a race season when you're racing week to week. That it's areas you've kind of decided on the car need improvement, and they're slightly longer term areas, so we're already working in those areas now. We'll be out testing the cars as soon as we get an opportunity. It kind of depends on the rules, what they let us do, what they don't, but we get 1 week vacation after this race, and then we're pretty much back to it. And over the winter we're testing wherever it's warm and sunny and you can get on the track. You know, we'll go to Florida, we'll go to Arizona, we'll come out here if we have to run the cars. We don't stop.
I'm trying to think. What does the app look like that you have there? What can you see on it?
I don't want to show you too much detail because it might help other teams and stuff. But we have a whole number of pages which have different aspects of the setup of the car. There are probably a couple hundred different parameters that we can alter in the setup of the car, as we call it. The mechanical setup, things like the springs, the dampers, the wing angles, the ride heights, the sway bars front and rear, the toes, the cambers, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, we just bounce from screen to screen while we're out there working. We have what we call a run screen, for instance. While he's running, I'll write my comments in on what the driver's saying about the car. The changes I do will appear in this window. I just kind of pick them off another menu, and then as we're running, the kind of laps just fill in automatically in this window, the lap times and various other parameters I've got chosen as things I want to know as the car is running.
Right.
So.
Do you have graphical tools to compare the performance?
Oh yeah.
In other words, can you see how it performed last week or even last minute?
Like these are some printouts. Obviously, we normally look at them on computer. Brad here is the assistant engineer on the 10 car.
Yep.
But while we're running, we have, this is like from last year, looking at our 2 cars. This was a typical lap in practice, and we're looking at comparisons of how the 2 cars are operating and that kind of thing. Many different channels. We have about 200 channels of data we can look at. So obviously there's a kind of a top tier of things you look at as a priority, and then sub tiers of things that may or may not be as important.
You can tell them how technology maybe has changed.
How is it, we've seen how the telemetry comes off the car, and sort of we have a pretty good idea of how that helps you see what's happening on the car. How does technology help your team out in communication? Because one thing I'm blown away with is the scale of the organization here. The track itself is quite big, so you probably have spotters around the track watching things.
Yeah, we have spotters around the track. Obviously, we're running 2 cars here. We operate out of what we call a timing stand, where everybody sits who's kind of focused on one car. But what we do as a team here as well, we try and integrate the 2 cars a lot because...
Hold on a second, I'm saying I'm having a tape problem. All right, so we're back. We had to change some tapes. So I was asking you, I've seen how the telemetry data helps you run the race car and see what's going on with the driver and the race car. When you come out to the track for the first time, today's my first day at an Indy track, you're blown away by the size of the track, and how does technology help your team work together? Because I'm sure the team is all over the place. You have people in the pits, you have people out in the stands and stuff like that.
Yeah, part of the success of the team and what we work on is kind of the communication and integration of the different aspects of the team. So although we might be running two cars out there from two separate timing stands, which might be 30 or 40 feet away from each other, with groups of people focused on the individual car that they're running, we're trying to communicate at all times between timing stands so that one car can see what the other car is doing, etc., both in overlaying data and just kind of knowing what the other engineers are doing and that kind of thing. Plus, when we come back to the truck, of course, we all sit in the same room here, kind of as one team, and everybody has access to everything. So it's easy to look up what this car's doing, what that car's doing. You learn far more by operating two different cars than you would just one. And similarly, we kind of arrange it so that each car isn't necessarily doing the same test program. The test sessions are relatively short at a race weekend, so we'll be trying to cover different ground with each car, and then kind of amalgamate the best things we've found to make the team move forward as a whole.
Interesting. What's the do you know what the infrastructure is? What kind of network you use, or
Brad might. What network we use?
are you guys on Wi-Fi, or how are you guys all connected to each other?
Just through a regular old router, hardline.
Really?
We do have Julian is on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
We do have wireless routers in the pit, and we also have a wireless router from the server in the truck here out to the timing stand as well.
Okay.
So if we wanted to, we could be on the internet in the timing stand.
Yep.
That is possible. But,
A little shopping.
Yeah, we can go on eBay, whatever.
Looking at the weather, to be honest, is what it's really used for.
It is very useful. For one instance, was Indy in 2004 when it was going to rain, and at that point in time I was running Grand Am. I came over for the race to help him out, and out in pit lane I was watching the radar on the internet. So, you know, obviously you make pit decisions based on what you think the rain's going to do. Is it going to rain? Is it not? So it is advantageous for a case
On
like
Sunday
this.
there's a chance of rain, right? So you'll
Yes.
probably be doing that this
Yes,
week?
absolutely.
You use Instant Messenger as well. You're telling me you use Windows Messenger sometimes
Yes.
for things too? Give me a
These
scenario.
guys use it all the time.
Chris and I use it all the time. A lot of it when we're going to pit, like a caution will come out. Are we going to pit? Are we not? Are we going to stay out? Also, one of the things we work on is, for instance, at Watkins Glen, the 9 car was leading, and we were 6th or 7th at the time, and we were going to pit on the same lap as they were, and with the Watkins Glen pit boxes were pretty tight. One of the things we did is we alternated our strategy to pit on a different lap, so we didn't screw them.
Similarly, they didn't screw
us.
didn't screw them.
So that's a big help when it comes to stuff like that. 'Cause
During the
if
race.
not,
Yeah.
we would have pitted on the same lap, and who knows what could have happened.
Yeah.
So what, this is going to sound kind of silly, but like, what is that like with a conversation? I know the conversations we have back and forth when we're getting us to do different things, and some of it's either when we're writing code or when we're asking somebody to go for lunch. Like, is it, oh, by the way, do you think you could pit, or is it like, do you have different?
It's straight to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's straight to the point. You know,
Did you flip the coin?
What lap?
Yeah. What lap? And
Yeah.
that means what lap to pit on. We're staying out, or we're pitting. You know, what's your fuel mileage? What map you're running? Power map. It's pretty straight to the point.
And you don't have those problems with all of a sudden where somebody, your girlfriend or friend comes on and goes, hey, by the way, what are you doing right now? No.
No, but yeah, it has happened. it has happened. We had a guy back at the shop, our electronics manager, sitting on his couch watching a race, and he figured it out and chimed in, you know, what lap you guys pitting on and everything like that. So yes, it has happened.
So you get couch potato advice,
Yeah.
huh?
Not anymore, we don't.
Not anymore, but it has
Briefly.
happened.
Yeah, it has happened.
Wow. And OneNote's a big part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're saying you need like alt print screens of
Oh yeah,
this pasting in?
This
Like
is the
I-
OneNote king right here. This is Mr. OneNote.
The race engineers, me and Eric, we use OneNote tons.
Tell me about when you're using OneNote, like because that's like that app came out about a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I think we were one of the kind of one of the
Guinea pigs.
guinea pigs for
Yeah.
it. Like most of my stuff, the two things I principally have on here are OneNote and the application while the car is actually running on the track, and I just bounce back and forth. I've got tons of stuff set up here in OneNote. You know, I've got hundreds of sections across the top, and it's a combination of me just writing stuff in, me pulling in screen clippings, etc., etc., etc.
Do you guys use the interactive
screen
version of OneNote? Do you use the features so that you can share the same OneNote live over the internet?
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I just, believe it or not, I just found out about this like myself a week ago. I was in a meeting and a guy worked with. There was like 8 of us in a meeting. One guy was in a different location, and the one guy sent around an email. Said, click on this OneNote, and as we took notes and as other people were inking, we all worked on the same page of OneNote.
Okay.
So we could add, one person would add a picture, somebody would add some other notes, and literally we all, rather than having 5 or 6 pages of OneNote, we had one that we all worked on together.
Okay. Didn't know you could do that.
And what's cool is if somebody's editing down here, it doesn't like move you down that way. If you're working up here, it still
Right.
keeps you in
Right.
the right spot.
Yeah, we use OneNote a lot because for what we do engineering-wise, when you're throwing reports to somebody or something simple, not necessarily a formal report, yeah, you can just get a screen clipping from, we use many different pieces of software, so you just get a screen clipping, bang it in, write some notes, send it, it's perfect, So yeah, we use OneNote a ton.
What kind of misconceptions do fans have about racing, or maybe because they aren't allowed in this room? This is a big honor for me to be behind the scenes. What kinds of things do they ask about when you meet them outside at the fence or whatnot?
I think what you realise more when you're involved in racing on a professional level is how little the TV commentators really know. It's probably true in any sport. I don't know much about football. I watch football. It sounds as though everybody's a total expert. I don't know. When you watch motor racing and you do it on a day-to-day basis, there are hundreds more complex levels to it than ever gets put across to the public, which is unfortunate. Because the way we see things, it's far more interesting than it might appear on television.
Yeah.
Just because we can see all the levels, it's a bit like a chess game going on.
It's something like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just getting the technical side out of it. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have no idea of what we do.
Yeah. And all the pit strategies and everything are very involved in the races.
Yeah.
We're talking 100% of the time almost on the timing stand about what we're going to do in this situation. That situation is changing lap by lap. Yeah, the TV guys don't appreciate it. They don't know it. They just kind of simplify it down. If you knew what was happening, it's really interesting.
What's the number of seconds between first place and last?
It depends.
But it's
Like
not a lot.
around here,
Well, first place and the last place on the track.
On the track.
it could be
Yeah.
10 or 15 seconds at the end of the race. It could be 10 seconds. It could be 4 seconds. It could be.
That's an amazing differentiator.
Yes.
because
Yes.
Typical qualifying is less than
Less than
2.
less than 2 between
Less
the
than
first
2.
and last. guys in
Usually, if
qualifying.
the first through 15th is less than a second in qualifying.
I've asked everybody this. Do you play video games?
I don't know,
No?
but
These guys did.
yeah, some of the drivers do as well.
Uh-huh.
Like we've had drivers who are mainly the younger drivers, totally into video, race simulations, and they just sit at the airport and
Wow.
hand-eye coordination and all that.
Well,
It's
with
big
the
time.
new Xbox 360, you can actually race against other people.
Okay.
It would be really fun to have one of the drivers come on and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
XYZ driver, and you want to race and see if
Yeah.
you can beat the best."
That was interesting.
That would be a good charity
I go over-
thing too. You could have Xbox Live. You
Yeah.
put down $100, you get to race. The Target Racing Team, and if you beat them,
Yeah.
One of our drivers who's not here, Ryan Briscoe, he was injured a couple races ago. He recently got the Xbox, just a regular Xbox, and got the Forza Motorsport.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's always a treat when I go over and play him because I try and kick his. I have.
You can say ass on here.
I have. Yeah, I try and kick his ass, and it's funny. Usually he gets the better of me, but when he first got the game, he couldn't touch me.
Which track do you race on Forza?
On Forza, we race Road America.
Yeah. What cars?
Like the Bentley and the R8.
Yeah. I think the Mustang. But
what's your username? So we don't.
does he have Xbox Live and does he have a gamer tag? Probably does one as well.
I want to say he has Xbox Live. I'm not sure about being online or anything like that. But we raced that in Laguna.
Oh, cool.
Actually, that's sort of interesting. What I should ask the drivers some tips for driving. You know, what kinds of strategies do they have going into a turn or whatnot. But for fans, because I'm going to be watching my first race on Sunday. You know, and let's say I'm out, you know, on one of the turns. What should I be looking for? What should a fan look for to enjoy the sport a little bit more?
Okay, what you're looking for, essentially in the race, the object around here is to be full throttle the whole lap, which is it is easy to do in qualifying if your car is fairly decent. But in race, the difference is going to be when guys are running in a pack side by side, who has to lift out of it because their car might be understeering, which is when the front starts to drift up towards the wall. It's all subtle. When you know what to look for, you can see it. You know, someone will try and go like down the inside of somebody else, and they'll get a lot of understeer, and their two choices are either to lift off the throttle or to drift up into the other guy, which is when the big accidents happen. So they'll get out of the throttle. When you know what to look for, you can see whose car is doing what and who can dive underneath people and make the pass without having to lift with understeer, who can go round the outside, which is often the preferred way of getting past people, who can blow by in that second or third lane and make the pass happen and get in front of the next guy and not have to lift off because either he's like too loose in the outside lane where the rear end wants to come around and the guy has to get out of the throttle to avoid the car kind of coming round and hitting the ball. So
can you give us a little bit more of the chess game? You mentioned that, you know, sometimes the announcers don't, you know, that was one part of it, but sometimes the announcers don't get the subtlety.
They don't know what fuel mileage everybody's getting. There's a certain number of laps. We have 30-gallon tanks. You get a certain amount of fuel mileage. You can turn the engines up or down in terms of the richness of the fuel mixture, so to speak. So we have what we call a lot of lean maps, which save different amount of fuel. Obviously you lose horsepower in that, so between the different engine manufacturers, if one guy is mapped better than another, he might be able to get better mileage at the same power level than the next guy.
Is that the stuff you guys were keeping secret from me? Because I was asked not to shoot the engine compartment or the suspension.
Some of all that stuff, and that's a lot of the software in the ECU. And obviously tomorrow you'll be able to see on all the screens like the miles per gallon and gallons per lap and what fuel mixture we're running in and all that kind of thing. So when everybody's out there, the lead guys often won't necessarily be going full bore early in the race. The guys in the lead will be backing off a little bit on their fuel mixture because the guys behind will get more of a draft and get better fuel mileage than the guy in front. You don't really want to lead early on in the race. You want to be second or third and breathing it or turning the fuel down, and then you'll go further before the next stop than the guy in front of you. So we all know roughly what fuel mileage everybody's getting and what they're doing and how that's going to play out. You don't want to be stopping before anybody else. Similarly, you want to make the yellows if you can so you don't go down laps or anything like that. So the fuel mileage thing is a whole big game.
So are you tracking your competitors and how long they've been in the lead? And
yes, from time of scoring and that kind of thing, we know who's been leading, how many laps they've run since they last pitted, what kind of lap times they've been running. Obviously, from our experience, we know roughly.
Is that still a manual process on paper, or is that also going into computers?
That goes into a computer. We have a timing scoring program that tells us when they last pitted, how long they went on that.
You have a historical background. I'm sure this is probably not a secret, but imagine you have a historical background from race to race also on your competitors too that you might be able to.
Yes, and just the race history, like we were talking, I think just when you guys came in, me and Jack, about the history of yellows at particular tracks, you know. Here, typically, there's an awful lot of green running, as we call it, no yellow cautions, which, again, changes the way you approach the race at times, because you're racing in a more spread out manner, not so much in a big pack like you are when there's a lot of cautions and a lot of restarts. So you bias your gearing and all that kind of thing to running more, you know, on your own, so to speak, or in small groups of cars, whereas if there's a lot of yellows, you run your gears more towards running in a big pack of 20 cars. You know, that changes your strategy and a few things in the car.
That's Chris. He's support engineer on the Marine.
Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Good. How are you? So what do you do here?
I'm one of the assistant engineers on Scott Dixie's car. Similar job to what Brad does.
Okay. So we got a pretty good idea of what the two of you do. What else do we need to know about the kinds of work you guys do behind the scenes? And
Chris is the Excel guru.
Yeah.
Oh, is he the one
He's the Excel guru.
who knows how to do calculus better than you do?
Yeah.
I heard that you're really good at either VBA or making Excel macros.
Some Excel macros and stuff, yeah.
Have you ever heard of VSTO?
I've heard of it, I've never used it.
Okay. What kind of scripts and macros and VBA stuff do you write?
Two of the things we do the most of, we have out of our data acquisition software, we can output an Excel report, and we have a macro that strips out the fastest lap from each outing and gives us pertinent information like the aero balance of the car, which is how much of the aerodynamics of the car is on the front of the car versus the rear. It affects the way the driver feels the car and whether it's loose or pushing through the corner, whether it wants to hit the wall with front or the back, in layman's terms. Different settings like the roll bar settings, spring stiffness, front and rear, a whole bunch of different engineering things that we look at. There's probably about 25 or 30 columns of information, including stuff about fuel mileage, mixture settings, gallons per lap, and how much fuel we use that outing, so you know how much to put in for the next outing.
What's your favorite piece of software?
My favorite piece of software, I don't know, we use Excel a heck of a lot. We use High Toolbox a lot as well, but that's just our data acquisition, and it's definitely not my favorite piece of software. It's a little buggy, I guess you could say, but yeah, Excel is very powerful and very useful. We also do some timing and scoring reports. We get an output of basically a huge database of each car's times through different segments of the track for every session. So we use Excel to filter through that, figure out their fastest complete lap, and also their fastest theoretical lap, putting together all the fastest sections for one lap, and see how fast a driver could be if you actually had a perfect lap with a perfect toe and perfect conditions on all on one lap. So that gives us different pieces of information to see where we stand versus our competitors. There's speed traps as part of the timing and scoring, and especially when you go to road courses, some of the sections will have more corners than straightaways, so you can get an idea of how your car is performing, maybe whether you have too much downforce, too little downforce compared to your competitors, and different information like that.
How come you can't run the car exactly the same at every race?
Because the tracks are different, the tires are different. The demands on the tires are a lot different around, say, a Fontana, a 2-mile track where you're going 220 miles an hour versus a road course like Sonoma where your top speed is only about 175 and your slow corners are literally like 45 miles an hour. So the tires are a lot softer on a road course, but have a little bit thicker gauge and some different sizes. So the demands on the tire are a lot different. The demands on the car are a lot different as well. Around Fontana, you're flat out all the way around. You're basically running the minimum amount of downforce and the minimum amount of drag that you can, whereas a place like Sonoma or Watkins Glen, we have more corners proportionally to straightaways and more sort of medium speed corners. Putting downforce and drag on the car actually makes you faster over the lap. So, and then obviously there's different bumps, there's different settings for the dampers and springs that all play into it as well. And then there's different driver styles, and the car may be the best car for this driver, but it won't work so well for another driver who has a little bit different style.
Aside from winning, what's your favorite part of your job?
I think just all the different challenges. There's a lot of jobs you get into, especially as an engineer, where you're always working on the same type of thing, and we get to work on all different kinds of projects, everything from computer programming, simple macros and stuff, to building a new widget back in the fab shop. We get to do a little bit of everything, a lot of hands-on work, and really get to use all of our different skills. I mean, I took a couple of electrical engineering classes and mostly mechanical classes in college, and I get to use my electrical engineering skills as much as I do my mechanical, and quite a bit of aerodynamic work as well. So I think just the different challenges across different disciplines is what I find enjoyable.
So are you one of the rainy day Medal of Honor gamers?
Yeah, we do that every now and then. Yeah, we logged some hours at Indy this year when it was raining. Pushed the limits of the processor and the video.
What other games do you play?
Just different games. There's always the solitaire and the stuff like that to pass the idle hours, I guess.
What kind of questions do fans ask you when they get this kind of tour?
They usually ask how they can have my job.
Yeah.
I usually give them the wrong answer. I don't want too much competition.
Go to MIT, get a 4.0, and then be racing since you were 14. It sounded like that was the advice.
I started racing when I was 7. My brother started driving when he was 4 and racing when he was 5. So
Was it go-karts?
it was quarter midgets, which are like go-kart tires with full suspension with a roll cage. Looks a little bit more like a midget. Have you ever seen that? Or like a sprint car. And yeah, I've been in racing ever since.
Where did you
team for a while?
Where did you start racing?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
We raced there, but there's quarter midget tracks all over the country. In fact, there's a pretty big one out here in Pomona, California. So, as a youngster, they split the nationals east and west, and sometimes you get people trying to do both. We never actually made it out to the West Coast, but I raced against a lot of guys that were from California, and they always split the nationals east and west by about 2 weeks. So you could actually do both if you wanted to.
Yeah. Talking to, I think your name's Brad, right? Yeah, sorry. I was surprised to learn that he's never been in one of the cars, driving it around. I mean, is that true for most of the staff members here? Oh, you don't fit. Well, that's an interesting.
Fred used to race at the level up to one level below Indy cars, essentially, up to Indy Lights, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you guys don't just let anybody drive the car around.
They're pretty expensive, and it's hard enough to find somebody to pay the rental car bill, much less the bill if you wreck one of the race cars. So they tend to leave that to the professionals.
So you can wreck a $3,000 or $4,000 clutch in about 5 seconds if you let the clutch out wrong, and we don't get in, period.
So the answer, Robert, if they can't drive the car, we can't drive the car.
I was hoping.
He's like practicing. It's pretty crazy. They can get them on 2 wheels.
It's possible, not recommended.
Yeah.
Like you overrev an engine, it can be a $50,000 rebuild
In milliseconds.
in milliseconds.
Yeah, very cool.
So
No, okay.
none of us have ever.
$1 million car.
Well, thanks, guys. This has been a real treat for us to
Okay.
come back behind the scenes and meet you guys and hear about the technology and the tactics you use.
Yeah, we'll see more tomorrow when we're running the car. So.
Yeah, it'll be more.
We'll be out there
Yeah.
watching you guys.
Yeah.
And,
Be pretty flat out tomorrow. A lot of running tomorrow.
Yeah.
so tomorrow's Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that actually a race or is that
No,
just?
that's we have 2 practices in the morning, and then we qualify mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
Then we warm up Sunday morning and we race.
Now I hear cars going around right now. Is that another team
that's
practicing?
a car you could get in.
Oh, really?
That is a 2-seater IRL car out there running right now.
So are they taking press people around or
Yeah.
something? Ah.
For cash money.
Let's go! How much does it cost to get in one of those cars?
I don't think it's
You just gotta work for it.
Not that
No,
bad.
it's not ridiculous.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like $500
For a couple laps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a couple laps?
It'd almost be worth doing.
Yeah.
Like,
Almost.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stuff
around places
jock
like
in the
Sonoma
car.
or
He'll
Indianapolis,
take you around.
places where most people never get to get on the
Yeah.
racetrack, it'd be a heck of a ride.
Yeah.
A lot better than a day at Six Flags.
Yeah.
Is there a little bag?
There's a panic switch from what I'm told.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
There is a panic switch.
Wow.
And it has crashed with somebody in it.
Really? Interesting.
And they did walk away.
And they did walk away.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. This has been a great treat, and we'll be watching from 100 feet away, 100 yards away or something tomorrow as you guys do your jobs.
Good luck this
And,
weekend.
yeah, and good luck on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring your
Did you say good luck or you say break a leg?
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. Never break a leg.
That means something bad happened.
Like the acting thing, you never wish good
Well,
luck.
some people could catch fire.
Yeah. You wish that to your competitors, right?
As a
Although
general
you probably
reference,
don't.
you hear oversteer and understeer. Oversteer and understeer are fancy terms for